Okay, we should be live. I think it's the 45th edition. I'm forgetting to get the updates ahead. And today we're going to have a slightly different spin on the data theme. So data with a heart, the human connection, data value. I've said this many times. Technology is the easy part. It's the people that are the challenge. So without further ado, we're going to have Ramona Truter on the show, long-time follower, first time attendee.
Hi Chris, hi everyone. It's great to be here. I'm super excited.
So for once, normally you come up as the LinkedIn user, and then we need to go and check, check on the comments to find out it is you. I normally suspect it is you by the style of the comments. So which is always quite unique, and with your witty and humorous additions are always entertaining. So I think we've spoken before, not live on shows, but on some Teams calls and chatted about the data world. You've been an avid supporter of the show since we started it, and a regular contributor to comments and posts. So thank you for all of your support over the years. But for those that don't know you, would you like to give yourself an introduction?
Yes. I'm a data and AI professional with over 2 decades of career, mostly spent in an academic environment. And in the last several years, I have been working on transitioning in the industry. And I've been doing a marathon training, trying to figure out where I fit, where I can take my skills and everything that I've accumulated with me throughout my life. And here I am, trying to share some wisdom, I don't know, together, right?
Yeah. To have some fun and debate the world of data, and I think similar to yourself, when I first came into this LinkedIn world after knowing data for my whole career, but the big data bubble, and everyone was talking about stuff that maybe I wasn't as involved in, but I think over time you just see what the core foundational skills are that are common across the evolution of the data platform, and I think they're invaluable. I think that they're the things that don't go away, and I think looking to the past to innovate for the future is one of my strap lines. But yeah, looking to see what problems have already been solved in the data world, and not reinventing the wheel, and helping educate the next generation of the best way of doing it. So I think I've seen already from your comments, your posts, and what you talk about. You've found your niche now. I think you found your area of specialisms.
Okay, which one do you think it is?
Well, no, the team build. I think that there's the team building aspect, the data governance lens on things, the reality check. I know I talk about business value as well, but a lot. But your views of how we can actually move that dial, closer to where companies want to get to with the ability of using data. So so that's at a high level. You put me on the spot there.
You put me on the spot first.
I suppose that's what happens on these live shows, I suppose, isn't it?
No, thank you for those really kind words, Chris. Before I try to figure out, this transition, this pivoting, I went back to my teaching portfolio. So that's a long, big document that I had to write a long time ago. And besides materials, that you put in there to showcase, as any portfolio would be, you have to write a teaching philosophy. So when I read that, it was just clear that my core values and the things that dictate who I am, both as a person and professional, they're still true to to the world I'm trying to transition in. So just as you said, we have a backpack full of stuff that we carry, that we've accumulated,
Mhm.
and that stays with us. And no matter where we go, what's inside of us, right? And what we've achieved, what we've learned, the good lessons, the bad lessons, all the wisdom, right? The failings, the
Mhm.
learnings, everything, we can take them and transition them anywhere we want. And yeah, today we decided that we're gonna have some fun. We always banter. So here I am. I stay true to my word.
Stop.
No,
Not old.
not
No.
adulting today. And I promised myself that I will have a beer with you when I will be on the show. I apologize for being a non-alcoholic one.
Oh, okay. Well, I could join you, I suppose, towards the end. It's one
Yeah.
o'clock, but
So this is a promise I made myself, because I'm always jealous of all the low key events that you guys have, and I cannot participate. So this is
that's
it's
your entry into our low
that's my
key
entry.
community.
Yeah, it's non-alcoholic, even though I would be excused. Today is a holiday in Canada, so it's civic holiday. I could have a real beer.
Good. So is there
Cheers.
a is well, yeah, I've got well, I've got leftover cup of tea is what I've got at the moment, but I'll a virtual cheers. So is there any low key meetups that have been created or exist in Toronto?
Yeah, there are some, and I've been to some,
Yeah.
and really really well organized, and there's also
But they don't
drinking
look as
beer.
fun as
Yeah.
the ones that I'm
No,
talking
no,
about.
no.
No,
Maybe I should start my own here, and
yeah, yeah, maybe you should. And so going back to, I mean, some of the comments you made earlier around that, I just made it. So yeah, learning from our mistakes, and refer to battle scars. I think there's two other things that you mentioned there as well as that I've observed over these years as things that I still are the same skills and same way of approach for doing it now that I would have 10, 15 years ago. And that's the data modeling. Yeah, maybe with some changes to some degree, but pretty much the fundamentals haven't changed at all. And the other one is data architecture skills as well. Maybe the online technologies, but the capabilities, the functions, the processes haven't changed that much. We're big, organizations are still very much run as they have been the past 10, 15 years. Some of the technology components may have evolved, but the basic principles haven't. So, and I did a post the other day of is a data architecture a role or a skill? I think it said mindset as well, but keeping it simple. And then the same question around data modeling and data engineering. And it was quite interesting, the responses from different people. Some really anti-architecture sort of views. No, we can't go back to that again. Yeah, I think a general recognition that data modeling is good now, but is it a skill that everyone really should just have that complements your data knowledge? So, um, as knowing SQL, you should know,
Mhm.
and maybe even knowing Python, even though I don't know Python, but I can still add some value, I hope. But yeah, so um, do we think that we talked about well, just before the show, we were talking about team structures and things. Do you think teams have got too fragmented now, with everyone having a different hat, and the roles are now not really aligned to the job in hand and what needs to be done?
So before I answer that question, let me
Mm.
wind back a little bit,
Yeah,
because it's a lot to unpack, right? My answer to the post you're referring to was mindset,
yeah,
and I remember actually some months ago posting on Joe's Substack, on the one that he has for practical data modeling,
yeah.
and my post was along the lines, the more I think about it, the more I'm convinced that data modeling is a mindset. So
Mm-hmm.
I've said that way before you posted your comment, right?
Okay.
And it's just, and I had this conversation with Veronica
Mm.
actually twice, and we were discussing, a potential talk that I may give in Austin, right?
Mm.
And just how I reflect and how I see things, uh, the personal life, the things that I do, professional life, and how I see data, right? And it's just I'm gonna just say it again. I don't think we ever had a chance for me to express this with in a conversation with you,
Yeah.
that I really don't think, I mean, I don't know how to separate the professional and the person. So they are so intertwined, and the things that we bring from our personal life, they transcend into the professional one, and vice versa. We take things from the professional life and we bring them in our personal life. So then, of course, data modeling, architecture, everything, it becomes a mindset.
Yeah.
And uh, I was reflecting on all these things, the way I landscaped my garden, the way I remodel my kitchen. And truly, I did that. So it's not, I hired somebody, paid good money to do it for me. And I just thought of how I approached it.
Yeah.
And it was a whole project process, but only when it was finished and I reflected back on it, I realized, wait a minute, this was not a not a personal project, it was a professional project, right?
Yeah.
And well, a lot of return of investment, because I saved myself a ton of money and I did a much better job.
It, it reminds me of the time my friend he actually produced a Gantt chart for cooking a roast dinner of when he started
Hmm.
everything, when it was all going on, how many 'cause cooking for a load of people, how many pots and pans he had capacity for, and it was in a Microsoft project plan. I'm thinking, this is taking your your work life definitely into your home life.
Absolutely, and the same thing applies in the kitchen, right? And I'm just thinking, when you have the special dinners, right, and you need that special big large pot that you only use once or twice a year. So do you keep it in your kitchen, or do you keep it in an auxiliary, extend it to the house, right? So the same way in data, we keep the things that we need all the time close to where we are, and then when we need something once in a while, we'll bring it. So I was truly reflecting on that, I guess, around Christmas time, thinking of my parents' home back in Romania, and their kitchen is stocked with essentials, but then they have a big annex and a big pantry and everything where it's stocked with a million things. And I'm thinking, people buy bigger houses just to deposit all this stuff that you may need once, right? So, and that made me think about cloud and the
Yeah.
costs associated with that. And yeah,
Yeah, I
so.
think you've just you highlighted it's a storytelling. So and
Mhm.
data is dull. Data is a bit dull sometimes. So to bring it to life, we have to go to all these great analogies and stories that go with it. So and that comes to people. And why do we need to do that? It's because we need to convince people this is the way of doing it. So yeah, and that's because the people the most complex part of the whole process,
Yes,
and
and
getting them on board.
I
Um,
still have to answer the question.
oh yes. No, I thought you've got what the question was now. So go on.
About the teams and being
Yes.
siloed, and absolutely, I agree with you, Chris. And I think this has been my biggest struggle, figuring my place,
Mm.
because okay, I think I've done everything on the data spectrum, right? From I've started with Fox Pro and Progress
Mm.
and doing crystal reports and
Yeah.
whatnot.
Yeah.
And
I see
now
that.
here we are. I'm training models and I generate synthetic sets. So I've done everything in the spectrum. But I look, okay, so Ramona, where do you want to work? I can wear a data analyst cap. I can wear the data scientist, the machine learning engineer. But I look at my skills and what I can do and what they ask to
Yeah.
do. So it's to your point, everything is so fragmented, and the left doesn't know about the right, and they are really missing that, I don't know, person in the middle, or a centric or centralized person
Yeah.
who can wear multiple hats at once and
Right.
understands how things work and can make connections, and not only inside the organization, that department or that department, just it's a broader scope, right?
Yeah.
Because we borrow so much from other um, tech industry components, right? Not just data. And sometimes we reinvent the wheel
Yeah.
when a solution was already created by people in networks or by
Yeah.
people in you name many other fields, right? At the engineering. So by the time, oh sorry, go ahead. I
No, 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 no.
interrupt me
No,
when
no.
I start.
No, I always write notes nowadays. I try not to interrupt as much. But
Oh.
what you what you were just triggering then was the thought of the gap we have at the moment, which I would say was played by the architect role back
Mm-hmm.
before. That was spanning the business teams and the data teams. I think it's that product owner role now, and and if you have that product owner that is able to have, and we talk about the storytelling, is able to communicate on both sides of the fence. I had a thought, and I haven't published, or I haven't done a post on this one, and it was different between perception and perspective, and everyone has their own perception,
Mm-hmm.
which is individual to you, and it's correct for you. But to be able to communicate with other stakeholders, you need to either have their perspective, and it means you have to put yourself into their minds. So that role that can sit between it has the ability to be able to context switch to which department they're talking to bring it to a common language, but also promote reusability. Okay, look, we've already got this there. So be able to talk to the engineering teams, go, don't go and do that again. We've already solved that over here. And then to go, oh, okay, you're right, actually. Whereas if they had some boss that they would try and challenge that wasn't able to articulate why they shouldn't do it, it's, oh no, this is different, we're doing it this way. But if you're able to challenge with authority, knowledge, authority based on knowledge,
Mm-hmm.
um, and you're more likely to get the right approach. So you go. So your role could be a data product owner or manager. So we just that's the gap that's there, I think. So yeah, that was, I put you mid flow, but that was my thought on it.
No, and that's my answer. I mean, I came to the same conclusion, and I was building up to that, and
Mm.
uh, listening to Vin, and I took his course, but I read the book and everything. We were chatting for almost a year now, so
Mm.
it just I was able to realize that, yeah, that is who I am, and
Yeah.
uh, I felt like an outlier, right? Uh, for most of my career, and listening to different conversations and people, explaining things, and I thought, oh, but I know that. Why? To me, things that to me felt very, of course it is like that,
Yeah.
like
Obvious
common
to you.
knowledge,
Yeah. Yeah.
it wasn't. So you just
Yeah.
need somebody to help you realize that, oh, you hold on to knowledge that is not common knowledge,
Yeah.
and there's value there. So
Yeah, and then the value in the ability to communicate that using storytelling or
yes.
things that the person you're talking to can relate to. But yeah, okay,
So
we're in agreement. I think the only other thing I'd add to it was that I think there's two sort of product owners in this space. So I think there's a
Mm.
product owner for the machine that is the
Mm-hmm.
machine that gives you ability to develop your data products. And when I use the term data products, I refer to a collection of objects that can be used together to deliver a solution independently. But yeah, the machine that allows you to be able to do that in the best way is a slightly different mindset as well, because yeah, it's probably a little bit more technical on that aspect. Yeah, well, maybe they're similar. I think it's less business understanding you need for that role, but you need to understand how you deliver to business teams, but not actually the end client as such. So yeah, so either of those roles you could pursue the route down.
And Chris, further to your point, there are times when actually we are the products,
Yeah.
and really we have to wear that hat, and we are the product because we make the connection, right? We are the translator between that side and the other side. And absolutely yes to the communication piece. You know, I've ex- ex- I've shared this with Veronica, that I'm thinking of the DNA. Where we take one strand from the father, one from the mother, and then there are the connections in between them. So if one strand is the professional, the other one is the person, what is the binding between them is the communication piece. So
Yes.
this is how I see. That's the vision that I have. I'm a visual person, so I see
And
that in my right now in front of my eyes.
and I mean, I can even think of it now with like a logical communication model. So
Mm,
basically, like very dumbed down, sort of high level for certain audience, and then levels of more detail that are given to where you're actually talking in technical terms. Yeah, I think Joe's joined in. Maybe you can add that as another concept into your modeling book of yeah, the
Jo-
storytelling modeling details. And
Joe
and
is here. Oh,
yeah,
sorry. I
Joe's yeah,
oh
no. Joe's tuned in. In
I
fact, say hello to some people. We got Angelica from North Carolina, Val from London, he's from Spain, David Foster, Veronica. So yeah, we got
hello
some
to everyone.
regular names there. So thank you, everybody.
I'm
And
honored that our friends have joined. And
yeah,
Joe is in Berlin, I think, in vacation.
I think so. Last I saw it was it was in Paris not too long ago. So yes, you might be more up to date than me. I haven't checked his Instagram out recently to see his latest one. And I think Mark Venn's tuned in as well. We go. There we go. Matthew Mullins as well. Yeah, Veronica. Yeah, Veronica just said data is a DNA helix.
Yes, Ramona
Yeah.
said it first.
Is this from a conversation or two you already had then?
Yes, and I think I've also shared it in. I have my notes, right? And I think I also discussed this on one of Monica K. Royal's podcast. And
She's just joined as well. So hi Monica. Everyone's and Thomas is just coming. Everyone's doing shout outs at the moment. So they've all turned out in force for you today.
and I'm blushing now. So, and I've accepted that. That's a feature that I've learned to accept and embrace.
We'll seeing we've been freestyling for a little while here, and we did have some bullet points on here, and I think one of the ones we touched on really was the parallels between personal vulnerability and data imperfections. So, and oh yeah, so what was your thoughts behind that one when you put that? So, what's your storytelling skills for this one?
Well, um, I don't know if you're familiar with Brene Brown's work. She's
Mm.
a social scientist, and she has written several books. And she's an academician, and
Mm-hmm.
she used data to come up with this theories. With her theories, she has lots of theories,
Mm.
and yeah, I think she's recognized in the world as the vulnerability guru. So yeah, she did her first TED talk maybe more than a decade ago,
Oh,
and that
okay.
really blew out. So it's this idea that courage is not the lack of vulnerabilities, but embracing them, right?
Mm-hmm.
And uh, I listened to some recent talks of her and about this book, right? The Gifts of Imperfection, and then
Mm-hmm.
there's another book, Rising Strong. So and those just sorry, let me gather my uh,
Mm.
my thoughts a little. So I was thinking in the context of data, right? Because
Mm.
let's just say we are given a data set and we know what's the first thing that we do. And this is the step that many data scientists absolutely detest doing, cleaning it or looking for insights, right? So it's the same idea in our personal lives, to do an audit of ourselves,
Mm-hmm.
to realize that we're humans, we have
Yeah.
imperfections,
Yeah.
but we know it intrinsically, but we don't want to look for it because
Yeah.
we're afraid of what we might discover. And then we continue with the wrong data, right? And that we have accumulated through our lives, and then we make the wrong decisions because we're constantly insisting on that data and constantly insisting to not audit it, and we continue to make the mistakes. So she has a framework,
Yeah.
and I was just thinking that I don't know if the data people discovered it first, or she came up with it first, or each of the groups individually,
Mm.
but there is a big overlap. So let's just say, Chris, I don't know, first time we discussed me coming on the podcast, you sent me a message. So this is a hypothetical. I just want to
Mm-hmm.
state that.
Yeah.
You just say, hey, Ramona, come on the show. And I said, sure, I will. And then I don't hear from you.
Mm-hmm.
So based on my insecurities that I've accumulated through life, I'm thinking, oh my God, finally he realized that I'm a fraud. And of course, he doesn't want me on his show, right?
Yeah.
So instead of that, I should come up to you and say, hey, Chris, we discussed that I will come to the
Yeah.
show. I know life happens and we
Yeah. Yeah.
probably
Yeah.
forgot, it got lost there. So we
Yeah.
should clarify those things, right?
Yeah.
But if I don't ask, I continue with the algorithm I already have
Yeah.
based on incorrect data. And
Yes.
then,
Yeah. Yeah. It's a good story to use to highlight. And yeah, you're back to that the statement earlier about perceptual perspective. All right. So
mhm,
again, your perception is built up from your life experiences of what you and unfortunately, if some of those ones are negative, and it's going to give you the wrong answer or not the right answer for that particular occurrence.
and
Um, yeah, but sorry, I wrote some notes as you were there, and I suppose reflection on my own career path and while building this business, realizing what I'm good at and what I'm not good at, and yeah, knowing your own weaknesses, knowing yes, I can do everything. All right, okay. Do I do everything well? No, hell no. What are the things I really am bad at? Okay, and and recognizing or being able to admit you're not. I mean, some things it's easy to admit you're not good at. Okay, I'm rubbish at doing my expenses. Okay, it's laziness to some degree, right? But there's other aspects of in certain uh, certain scenarios, I don't have the attention of staying focused on something. All right, do I want to admit that? Because in my career, probably not, because that could be seen as, oh, I'm not going to get promotion, or you're not going to get that renewal thing. So having an environment where you can be very open and honest of where your strengths and your weaknesses are, and for a leader or someone to be able to put together the best combinations of people that complement each other. There's no overlap of people that are really good at one thing, so you've got competition there. You've got a support structure for people that maybe are weaker in certain areas. You'll have the best performing team out of that. But Yeah, being able to step back and get that honest feedback to profile a team is again, I think, a skill that comes over time, and not something that people probably consciously do, because it's not it's not easy probably.
Yeah, and that ties back into asking for feedback and providing feedback.
Yeah.
So I think this is one thing that I have tried to do, or, if I see something, or I reach out to the person and say, hey, I saw a type, or hey, I don't agree with what you said, or something. But people, I don't know, I wonder about this a lot. Is it about time, or is it everybody's busy, so do you not notice because you don't have the time, or do you not say something because you don't have the time, or is because you don't care? And it's about the heart, right? Do you care enough to build that team? Do you care enough to be that leader who actually has a loyalty followers? And if I may be so bold, Chris, I think you value loyalty above all else.
100%. And in fact, I don't know if you've ever seen, there's a quadrant thing where they look best at something, loyal, trustworthy, and I think it's when they select Navy SEALs or something. And rather than go for the top quadrant, you prefer to go the one that you've got the trust with than someone because you're trusting with your life.
Exactly.
They may not be the best at what they're best at every single thing, but that trumps trust trumps.
You want to have.
Trump. No, yeah, I didn't mean that. I'm not going into US politics or anything like that.
Yes. You want to have dependable people, right? And how do you build that? So becoming a leader that inspires people and want to rally behind you.
It's triggered another little thought, and from this whole business value conversation I had last year, and the value of putting your socks on and things like that,
Yes.
and having to justify it. And we'll flip that round to we're talking about the humanity or the heart aspect. Doing good things. Where's the value in that? And you cannot directly correlate. Oh, I did this. Oh, this thing happening. And if you do think like that, then you're probably not going to get anything from it, because people can see through it. I can see through a false offer of help sometimes when I know that there's but in the second breath, oh, by the way, can you do an intro to this, or can you give me this, or can you help me on that? And then I think the world's got a bit too much like that, and I'd like to think I've bucked the trend on that. I like giving back. I've lots of people to help me on my journey, and where I can help someone, and it's not a big overhead. I always will. But I've been asked before, "Oh, do you getting paid for doing that?" Or no, but good things come out of good deeds, I think, is the other view. And I think that's helped. That's when building a team as well. Your team are going to be loyal, stick with you. You train them well. You give them a good environment. Why would they go? So.
Absolutely. So, this mindset that I do this because there's something in it for me. Why does it have? I mean, why isn't that's something that is in it for you is just giving back? Isn't that enough?
Yeah.
And it's so interesting. I was writing some thoughts and reflecting on things prior to the show when I received a very, very inspiring note from, I'm not gonna say, but it was somebody important and a big pillar in the community. And it just felt like, okay, when you say you put good things in the universe, it's speaking back to you and it sends you a message. I received a literal message. So I'm probably doing some good things.
You definitely are. And when you're talking about, I don't know if I can see this one. This is a book I tried reading at one point. I didn't quite finish it.
Art of.
Yeah, it's the Art of Action by Stephen Bungay. But I didn't actually quite finish it. But the general gist of it was, the right team is based on the right environment at the right time. And he was referring to lots of previous wars, and and the winners of them, were they always the best equipped? No, not always, but they were some of them the best ability to adapt. And it's actually knowing what sort of management structure you'd need to have and what skills you'd need from people to be a success. And it's not always the same. It's not a. In fact, if JT's listening, this is the common joke. It depends.
It depends. Yes.
So yeah, I think that's like the phrase that's we get a buzzer every time we say it now. It's the consultancy. It depends. So I mean, we nailed the first one. We've only got 3 more bullet points left, but yes, I know we've 4 more actually, and we've done 35 minutes. So yeah, we're keeping the topics going. Look, actually, I think we may have covered it. Transfer of honesty and handling data to build trust and drive innovation. So yeah, we're pretty much covering that. And I like to use that term provenance on data nowadays as well, because data quality, I think Ethan did a quite good post the other day, we should stop saying about data quality. But yeah, it's as with anyone in the professional, it's their provenance of where they've come from and the validation of peers that they've worked with before that that they're going to be a good fit. And I suppose same thing with data as well. It's not just about the little checks you've got to make sure things aren't null and things like that. Where the data come from, who's the owner of it, have they looked after it, which form uses it, who else uses this data as well. So yeah, I think
it's especially important now that we're using the large models, right? And we need to know the data provenance, but that's very hard to detect it after the fact, and that's why we see so many lawsuits now. And I think that is an important lesson, right, for everyone who's getting into the field. Okay, pay attention to that. And we can tie it back to the imperfections, right? When those who did it first maybe have not had the afterthought to think about the data provenance, but now that is discovered and all these lawsuits are happening, now we need to have mechanisms in place to actually prevent that in the future. And of course, there are always loopholes and people who look to bury their heads in the sand and think, we'll ask for forgiveness later, and so on and so forth. So
yeah, unfortunately, businesses where they know that they can make good money for it, and they know that the fines aren't fines or perceived view of the community, which they're the only things that can actually affect how business run. If either the customers shout too much about it, or the regulators prevent them to doing it. Otherwise, they unfortunately, their morals and ethics or the shareholders wouldn't allow them to do it because they all want to make their money.
I commented on a post. Jeremy writes a lot about what he's building and the knowledge management and ontology. So I like to jump into his posts, and he always triggers some thoughts, right? So I've been to some recent conferences and attended some talks, and looking for solutions. And I'm just gonna relay the message or the comment, right, that I gave to Jeremy, that these solutions are built assuming the data comes in this perfect format, like a fashion. Imagine fashion design, right? Fashion modeling, and then actually data is ragged T-shirt and sweaty sweatpants. And then you are sold the fashion design, but what you have is the ragged T-shirt. And then there will come the swarm of solutions that will take one to make the transition from one to the next, and then we end up with the mad landscape. We do it all over again, because what have we learned?
Yeah, no, exactly. We keep reinventing the wheel, and not learning by lessons. And I think we were discussing earlier it's the education of the teams that are forgetting some of the core foundational skills that um, which have been overlooked. And I blame the cloud a lot for that, and agile. I'll probably blame some other people in a minute, but I'm going to focus on those two for now. So yeah, the cloud. It was too easy to dial up compute. It was too easy to hide a really poor performant query by just putting from more horsepower at it. And the other thing is, agile just created an environment where you weren't accountable for delivering on time. You weren't accountable for making sure that you were accountable for the associated costs of what you're building, or you blamed cross-train dependencies of why you couldn't do it because somewhere. So it was a blame game, and all you had to do. I'm not saying everyone was like this, but data engineer turn up, close a few tickets, thinks he's done a job, think he's earned his, whatever thousands a week that he costs, because I closed my tickets off, and then you got the business going, how much is this costing me? I haven't even got what I need yet. So, so a lot of things that both of those things introduced had negative consequences, I think.
Exactly. And we can tie this back to the human aspect, right?
Mm-hmm.
People who do a lot of bad stuff and never assume responsibility because it's that person's fault or the other person's fault, never their own, right? And it triggers something you said earlier about, reading people immediately, that, they just want something from you and they're not willing and interested in investing time, right? We wanted to chat about that. What is the return of the investment in time, in investing in building relationships and, making those strong bonds with people?
Yeah. So I think Veronica's just replying. So yeah, stop blaming your orders. It's not their result. But yeah. It goes back to that perception and perspective.
Yes. So to follow up on that, there is a third part of the framework that Brené proposes. When you clarify these things, right? So I'm coming to you and I'm asking, why didn't you follow up? And you tell me, oh, you tell me the story, right? And it was never about something that I did, but the story that I was telling myself, it was a wrong story, and that brought up a lot of shame, and then it just increased and multiplied those the feelings of being inadequate. So I don't deserve to be on the show. So putting myself down, and having that honest, open conversation with you to clarify things, that will give me the opportunity to correct my data and then learn from that. So next time I will remember to take a step back and think, oh, maybe this has nothing to do with me. Maybe it's just something else. So thanks, Veronica.
So let's going back to our so real world examples of human connections have enhanced data driven outcomes. So what we say some real world examples of that?
Do you want to start? You have the thing in front of you.
Oh, okay, yeah. So
I can pull it up actually.
I'll put it. I can't put it in the chat actually. No, can I? From this phone, I can. I mean, it's real world examples where human connections have enhanced data driven outcomes. The first thing is that you can't have any data driven outcomes without human validation of what you're doing, and we'll use ontologies and descriptions of what's out there. So I think there's
and Chris, I'm spinning this around and getting it back. See, even in this conversation, we have different perspectives, right? So I'm thinking about the value of the people, and you have built a community around you, and you have loyal people who are showing up. And when you know that if you need to build a solution or go to a customer, then you have those people in your mind. You don't have to think about it. You don't have to do any search. They are there. So
it's knowing, going back to the understanding the right people that can deliver what you want with trust. And I think the other one is it's who gets on as well, and who and not everyone are not everyone. I'm not everyone's cup of tea, So as the expression goes, so understanding
or glass of beer.
Yeah, exactly. So I think that with the two things are what they call it, symbiotic. They just sit together. So I suppose we got the last point that was on here was practical strategies for integrating human-centric approaches into data management and decision making. So I've got a few on this, actually. Okay, all right. I think it's about business process modeling, which I think doesn't happen anymore. Historically, I've only seen very well documented structured business process maps achieved or being created in a large transformation. So a very large company being merged, and they have to do this because they have to understand what's actually going on to be able to merge any parts of the organisation together. But they're never maintained, and as soon as you've done that activity, they've become out of date. I think how businesses change and move and adapt so quickly, we never actually go back and say, okay, what's the business process for this now, and how does that affect what I actually want to build and how I'm going to build it from a technology aspect. So I think having the practical strategy is actually understanding, even if at a high level, what your onboarding process is for a new client, what your billing process is for a client, and then going back and looking, okay, where's the friction associated in that? How can I actually reduce the friction in delivering that? And I think that's always going to need the human involved for that for now. I've talked to John Cook about this in the past, of trying to reverse engineer business processes from what goes on in a technology level. In theory, I think it's possible. In practice, I think it's impossible, because you'd have to embed sort of maybe scripts in every location, which would take all that audit information or metadata if you actually understand what's going, who called it when they asked for it. If anyone's designing that, I'd be interested. I think it'd be really good. Anyone wants to build it, give me a shout. I'll give you some ideas.
Well, Vin talks about this in his frameworks, right? And how you can incorporate. I mean, when you go into a new business, to evaluate their processes and everything that you mentioned, right? Where is the business at? And trying to really make sense of all of that. And I always think about building a house from scratch, from foundation, or buying a house, moving in, and then figuring things that need improvements as you live in. So what you are describing is the second one. Yes, you don't notice it when you are searching for that house. You just see, oh, it has my checkbox, my checklist. I'll buy it. And then when you have to leave and you go and figure out all the frictions, right?
Yeah. So
now what do you do? How do you reverse engineer, and et cetera, et cetera? So I think this applies at all levels, right? And if you could build it from scratch, or if you have the manpower to actually invest the time to reverse engineer all that, right? Some big corporations probably can afford to do that, or not, I don't know. So that would be a win-win solution. But then, because that doesn't happen, the friction continues. Yes. And you're trying to solve a problem, and by the time you figured out the things to solve it, exactly as you said, 3 more or 5 more pop up, and it's always a multiplier of that. So where do you stop, and which problem do you decide to solve, and what are the consequences? Do you have the vision or the roadmap of where that will take you? And
I see it, and I've seen it as, and I'm doing some work for a client along these lines as well. So there's the friction of, we talk about the platform, and then the ability to use the platform to deliver things. So first of all, there is, okay, of my platform, how can I optimize my platform, and the frequency of things that change, or the time, complexity, and effort required to do an activity, combined with that frequency of change, will dictate the maturity of where I need to move that capability to. So it needs to have these things in there, because I know, because of frequency of change, times by the amount of time and effort it takes, gives me this amount of money. It's only going to cost me this. It's a no-brainer to, spend 100, or sorry, say, put 100,000 of effort in to save £1 million. Why wouldn't you? And be able to evidence that you can actually do it. And then I suppose the other flip side is, how quickly can I get someone to be able to use my machine, know how to use it, to get the best way of, so it's like your Formula One driver, I suppose. How quickly does it take? I can build the best car in the world. How quickly is it going to take me to train the driver to get the best out of it? And the best approach is having a combination of both. You want the best car that can perform the best way, but be the easiest for a driver. Well, maybe that's autonomous cars. We don't want that. No. Autonomous racing would take all the fun away from it. But that's how I see the two levels of friction reduction. It's friction in your engineering activities, and it's friction for your ability to use what you built.
I remember reading your post where you define these metrics.
Yeah.
So
it's one of my pet projects as well.
Yeah, can you always do that though? I mean, you work under another uncertainty, right? So you do your best estimates, I guess.
Yeah, and I think this is where you won't know now, but if you're able to collect the right metrics at the time of, time recording records every time your team's doing a particular activity, that, or maybe there's how many times your support desk get called to fix a particular problem, and how often that happens. If you have that granularity of information, and you have accurate estimates of how long it's going to take you to resolve that, then I think you can. But in reality, because you don't always have time, effort, accumulated it, or stored, recorded in a way you can actually relate it back. So, yeah, it depends. It depends.
Depends, of course.
The bell again.
Let me get this back to you, or at you. Where do you, in that formula, where is the cost of hiring Chris to solve this problem?
Well, yeah, he's factored into the statement of work on there as like an appropriately priced resource for the appropriate amount of time.
Because you may get this answer, right? Well, the time it takes or the money I pay you to do this, maybe I can buy something else, and it's the friction. The friction.
And it's the same, and Veronica's still there, we shall relate to this one as well. It's the effort in all right. Is it time to actually tune a query? And even with Snowflake, okay, it's taking 5 credits to run, but I run it once every 6 months. How much is the cost of me looking into it to go and find someone? It's not worth it. But if you actually understand, okay, well, that query's run 5 times a day, all right, no, it is worth tuning. And you're right. I think any effort, time spent, and getting a company and managing them to do your work for you, you need to get your best bang for your buck from them. So, I think some of it's probably industry knowledge, some of it is a little bit of a gut feel, and some of it maybe some real data you've got that's been given to it. But the true one is being able to evidence it. If you've proved it once and you've got a referenceable case, we did it before, we'll do it again.
And then we go back to the teams and the leaders and the building the trust and everything, right?
Exactly. So Veronica, she's replied back with another one. So one of the names I use in the past is, I need to get my toddler to daycare. I have a car. A car can get them to daycare. So I give them this car. Hire Chris to drive the car. Yeah. Oh, you haven't seen my driving recently. You may take that offer away.
When I stumbled in the community and the conversation on data modeling, right? So my first thought was, when did we stop doing data modeling, right? And then tying it into the car analogy, I really think that the younger generation of data engineers, professionals who haven't really studied data modeling, what they learned is they trained on an F1 car, right? Or an autonomous, sorry, they train on the autonomous car on a Tesla, but now they want to drive the F1 car, Formula One, because there you really need to be a professional and know all the knobs and everything, every turn, how to do the change and what it takes. I'm not, I can't drive a manual, so I'm out of my depth here. But I think the analogy holds, because you learn on a Tesla where you don't an autonomous Tesla, and then you want to do the F1 car. So of course you're not going to be able to solve the data modeling problems because you have no idea where to start, what to do. So that's my rant. Sorry.
No. I suppose it's like sitting in the back and abusing your autonomous driver. Drive faster. You can get through these. Try driving yourself nowadays. That's the difference, isn't it? So I think we're approaching the hour, and it's been a fun-filled discussion, and thoroughly enjoyable. And I hope the audience enjoyed it. But for anyone that doesn't know how to contact you or get hold of you, or
I'm on LinkedIn.
How they find you? Yeah,
I'm on LinkedIn, and pretty much only there. Every once in a while I do Twitter, but not much. I only join Twitter so I keep up to date with Lauren, and
yes,
and she keeps us on our toes, right?
I saw her week before last. I think I was out with for dinner and drinks with her and Alex Dean and a couple of others. And it was, as always, very entertaining. So I call her the honey badger of data. She just doesn't give a.
Chris, can I say something?
Sure.
I wanted to congratulate you on the first year of the podcast.
Oh yes, thank you.
I brought it up, and I just wanted to do champagne or something. I didn't have any. This is non-alcoholic beer, but you love beer, and consider this a cheer, and to many episodes, years, whatever you decide to do. This has been very fun. Thank you.
I didn't realize you've been doing it a year until you highlighted it to me. So thank you. And there's no shortage of people to come on and great conversation. So I don't think I'll be stopping anytime soon. But I thank you very much for coming on. And apologies it took this long to get you on. We'll arrange something again at another stage, I'm sure. Thanks everyone who's listening. So, I'm prepared for once, for the first time. I've actually got next week's show, which links quite nicely onto what you were talking about earlier, optimizing business with fractional data teams. So, fractions are the fractional teams are the way forward nowadays, they're saying. So we're talking to Shane Gibson of his views on that, and I'll be obviously sharing mine. I can still work out some of my fractions from school, so my algebra. We can work out how many how many fractions you need to create a whole team should be impossible.
Oh, did you read that? I wrote that. and especially if there's no company, then what does it mean? Division by zero, which is not defined. So
exactly. So tune in for next week for that one. Thanks again, Ramona.
Thank you, Chris, and thanks everybody who showed up. Appreciate it.
Thanks everyone. All right, till next week. Thanks, bye.